At Lyons, significant evidence has been uncovered to convince historians that the fabled kingdom of Quivira, the land of astonishing treasure that was sought by Don Francisco de Coronado in 1541, lay in this vicinity. Leading his conquistadores, Coronado was the first white man to visit Kansas. With him was a Franciscan priest, Father Juan de Padilla. His teachings of Christianity were coveted by Indians, and it is said that jealousy motivated his murder. This 30-foot monument recognizes Padilla as the first Christian martyr. The caravaneer saw nothing of the old buildings that once comprised Fort Zarah. It was an outpost created after the Civil War to house military escorts. This was the point at which caravans first encountered the big Arkansas River, at the tip of the Big Bend, near where now is the town of Great Bend. The outpost was short-lived, but active. Trail hands became uneasy after leaving Fort Zarah, even with military escort. The stories about Pawnee Rock told of bloody encounters, ambush. The modern caravan was no exception. Its intrusion was met by bleached braves, less fierce, but capable of reminding those in the advancing column of the fearsome raids directed from the promontory. Continued perilous events such as this led to the establishment of Fort Larned in 1859. This was the first military post established west of Fort Riley, nearer the Oregon Trail. Wild Bill Hickok and Kit Carson served here as scouts, and the figures of Buffalo Bill and his Indian squaw were familiar in the quadrangle as they brought dispatches to the commandant. More than 100 battles and skirmishes were fought by troops from Fort Larned. More than 500 troops, plainsmen, and Indians were killed or wounded within 30 miles. During one of the 4 great peak periods of travel, 1,000 wagons started west from this fort in a single day, and it was here that the Treaty of Medicine Lodge was prepared, wherein, after 46 years of bloody resistance, 5 Indian tribes guaranteed peaceful passage for frontiersmen. General Custer, together with Generals Sherman, Sheridan, Hancock, and others, were in command. Today, this is a national historic landmark. With the establishment of Fort Larned, a shortcut to Fort Dodge was created. It followed the high ground away from the river. This high route may have been originated for stagecoaches that could cover this shorter distance without stopping. Few indeed were the creature comforts of this mode of travel, and hardy was the person who would take a sightseeing trip from Independence to Santa Fe. The fare was $250. 11 passengers would share the space for 2 weeks or more. Stops were infrequent, overnight accommodations far short of sumptuous, and a guard was required to thwart privateers. The segment of the trail from Fort Dodge southwestward to the Cimarron River bore the distinction as the most dangerous portion of the trail. Caravans traveled for 3 and 4 days between these points before finding water. Their first dependable supply, called Wagon Bed Springs, still flows in the riverbed north of Hugoton. It, too, is a national historic landmark. Farther west of the Cimarron Valley is another spring, famed in trail history. It lies at the foot of a rock bluff that became known as Point of Rocks, still significant as a landmark north of Elkhart. In commenting of this place, Joseph C. Brown, leader of the surveying expedition that mapped the trail for the United States government, wrote in his field notes, "From a hill about a mile southwest of this spring will be seen 2 small mountains very near together and called Rabbit's Ears. These prominent landmarks were sighted by the caravan of 61 as they crossed Oklahoma. They're located now just north and west of Clayton, New Mexico, a short distance from McNeese Crossing, the site of the first observance of Independence Day held west of the Mississippi River. This occurred just 555 miles west of Independence, probably a month and a half after the group had left that starting point. To this day, throughout the length of the Santa Fe Trail, the ruts still are to be seen. The toiling masses wore away the earth or packed it so hard that a plow could not break the soil. In some places, they are deepened by erosion, and others they've been erased by intensive cultivation. Isolated evidences may be seen in Kansas and Oklahoma, but in the vicinity of Rabbit Ears, an almost continuous trail begins, a monument 100 miles long. It is a jarring realization to view these ruts from a vehicle that can traverse the entire length of the trail and return in less than a day. A single glance from above easily embraces a day's travel by the laboring wagon trains. Evening seldom found a caravan more than 15 miles from the starting point of that morning. Sometimes both camps were within sight of one another. Without a doubt, these are the most thrilling bits of evidence available to caravan or historic buff, where one can stand amid nature unblemished and bring to life a near-forgotten century.